CEO fires Black single mom for being late. What she does next destroys his business. What if a single mom, fired by a billionaire CEO for being late, used the company's own secrets to destroy his empire and build her own? The clock strikes 9:03 a.m. A woman bursts through the glass doors of a gleaming corporate tower, her breath ragged, her purse slipping off her shoulder as she clutches a crumpled coffee cup. Her name is Tasha Williams, and today, her world teeters on the edge of collapse. High above, in a cold, sterile office, a man in a tailored suit waits, his eyes glinting with judgment. One misstep, one moment of weakness, and everything she's fought for, her son, her dreams, her survival, could be torn away. What happens next isn't just a story of revenge, it's a seismic reckoning that will leave you stunned. Tasha Williams stood in her cramped apartment at 5:15 a.m., her reflection staring back from a chipped bathroom mirror. At 34, her face carried the resilience of someone who'd learned to bend but never break. Her hands moved swiftly, braiding her hair into neat rows, a ritual that grounded her before the chaos of the day. In the next room, her 9-year-old son, Marcus, slept under a faded Spider-Man comforter, his chest rising and falling softly. On the kitchen table, his science project, a model solar system, sat half-finished, a testament to last night's marathon of glue sticks, poster board, and exhaustion. Tasha hadn't slept more than 2 hours. Marcus had woken up at 1 a.m. with a fever, his small body burning against her as she held him. Then her mother called at midnight, sobbing about a burst pipe flooding her apartment. Tasha had spent hours on the phone, coordinating a plumber she couldn't afford, calming her mother's panic, and finishing Marcus's project. Her eyes burned, her body ached, but she pushed through. She always did. By day, Tasha was a customer service manager at Pinnacle Technologies, a tech firm that plastered innovation and excellence on every press release. She handled key accounts, diffused client meltdowns, and kept multi-million-dollar contracts from unraveling. By night, she tutored kids in her community, kids like Marcus, whose underfunded schools offered little hope. Every dollar she earned went to rent, groceries, or the dream she held for Marcus. College, a house, a life where he wouldn't have to hustle like she did. This morning, chaos won. Her alarm didn't go off, Marcus's fever lingered, and the babysitter was late. Tasha threw on her blazer, kissed Marcus's forehead, and left a note with instructions for his medicine. She sped through the city, her old Corolla rattling, and reached Pinnacle's downtown office at 9:03 a.m., 3 minutes late. The elevator ride to the 12th floor felt like a death march. Her phone buzzed with a text from her coworker, Lisa. Brad's on the warpath. Hurry. Tasha's stomach twisted. Brad Walker, the CEO, wasn't known for mercy. She stepped into the open plan office, feeling the weight of her colleagues' glances, some pitying, some relieved it wasn't them. She dropped her purse at her desk and straightened her shoulders. The intercom crackled. Tasha, my office. Now. Brad Walker's office was a shrine to his ego. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the city skyline, a mahogany desk gleamed under recessed lighting, and a single abstract painting, worth more than Tasha's yearly salary, hung on the wall. Brad, 45, sat behind the desk, his tailored suit crisp, his blonde hair perfectly gelled. He didn't look up from his laptop as Tasha entered, her heels sinking into the plush carpet. "You're late again," he said, his voice clipped, eyes fixed on the screen. "Third time in 2 months." Tasha's heart pounded, but she kept her voice steady. "I'm sorry, Brad. It was a family emergency. My son was sick, and I don't want excuses," he cut her off, finally meeting her gaze. His blue eyes were cold, devoid of empathy. "This is a business, Tasha. I can't keep making exceptions for you." Exceptions? The word stung like a slap. Tasha had worked at Pinnacle for 6 years, pouring her soul into the company. She'd trained half the customer service team, saved accounts when Brad's reckless decisions nearly lost them, and stayed late to fix his mistakes. She'd never taken a sick day, never asked for a raise, even when she knew her white colleagues, less experienced, less competent, earned more. She'd swallowed every slight, every time Brad interrupted her in meetings, every time he credited her work to someone else, every time he looked at her like she was lucky to be there. "I've given everything to this company," she said, her voice low but firm. I've closed deals you thought were dead. I've trained your team. I'm good at my job, and you know it. Brad leaned back, a smirk tugging at his lips. Good isn't enough. You're replaceable. You're fired. The words hit like a freight train. Tasha's vision blurred, her chest tightening as the reality sank in. Fired. No severance, no warning, no mercy. She thought of Marcus, of the medical bills, the rent, the tutoring kids who depended on her. She thought of every time she'd bitten her tongue, every microaggression she'd ignored to keep this job. She wanted to scream, to tell Brad exactly what she thought of his arrogance, his prejudice, his entitlement. But she didn't. Instead, she lifted her chin, her brown eyes locking onto his. You'll regret this, she said softly, her voice carrying a quiet fire. Brad laughed, a short, dismissive bark. Arius, he waved her off. Don't expect a reference. Tasha turned and walked out, her heels clicking against the polished floor. Her colleagues watched in silence, their pity now tinged with fear. She grabbed her purse, her hands trembling, and left the office without a backward glance. Back at her apartment, Tasha sat at the kitchen table, Marcus's solar system staring back at her. The bright planets, Jupiter's red spot, Saturn's rings, felt like a cruel reminder of the hope she'd clung to. Fired. The word echoed in her mind, each repetition heavier than the last. She wanted to cry, to scream, to throw the damn project across the room. But Marcus would be home soon, and she couldn't let him see her broken. She took a deep breath, opened her laptop, and started typing. For 6 years, Tasha had been a silent witness at Pinnacle. She'd seen the emails no one was supposed to see, the contracts buried in fine print, the late-night meetings Brad thought went unnoticed. Pinnacle wasn't the innovative tech giant it claimed to be. Behind the glossy facade, Brad and his inner circle were cutting corners, signing deals with unethical contractors, and funneling profits through offshore accounts to evade taxes. Tasha had kept quiet, believing loyalty would earn her a place at the table. But loyalty had only gotten her fired. She opened her external hard drive, her fingers moving with purpose. Over the years, she'd saved everything: emails, contracts, financial reports. She hadn't planned to use them, but she'd always known they were her insurance. Now, they were her weapon. She found a folder labeled Q3 Accounts, 2023. Inside was an email chain between Brad and a supplier flagged for child labor violations. Another folder, Investor Reports, 2024, contained doctored financials that inflated Pinnacle's revenue. The deeper she dug, the uglier it got: tax evasion schemes, kickbacks to shady contractors, and a pattern of exploiting employees to cut costs. Tasha wasn't just angry, she was strategic. She knew she couldn't take on Brad alone. She needed someone with reach, someone who could turn her evidence into a spotlight. She Googled investigative reporters and found Elena Martinez, a journalist at the City Chronicle known for exposing corporate corruption. Tasha drafted an email, careful not to reveal too much. Ms. Martinez, I have information about illegal practices at Pinnacle Technologies. I was fired today for reasons I believe are discriminatory. I have evidence, emails, contracts, financials, that prove the company's CEO is involved in fraud and tax evasion. Can we meet? She attached a single email, a cryptic exchange between Brad and his CFO about rerouting funds. Then she hit send. 2 days later, Tasha sat across from Elena in a crowded coffee shop, the hum of conversation masking their words. Elena, a wiry woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, flipped through the stack of documents Tasha had brought. This is explosive, she said, her voice low. Child labor? Tax evasion? You're sure you want to go public with this? It's a big risk. Tasha thought of Marcus, of the kids she tutored, of every worker who'd been discarded by men like Brad. She thought of the times she'd been passed over for promotions, the times Brad had called her articulate, like it was a surprise, the times she'd felt invisible. I'm not doing this for me, she said. I'm doing it for everyone he's hurt. Elena nodded, a spark of respect in her eyes. Then let's burn it down. Elena's article dropped at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday. Pinnacle Technologies, a house of lies, blazed across the City Chronicle's homepage. The piece was meticulous, weaving Tasha's evidence into a narrative of greed and corruption. It detailed Brad's deals with unethical suppliers, his tax evasion schemes, and his exploitation of employees to boost profits. It named names, quoted emails, and included scans of contracts. The final paragraph mentioned Tasha, not by name, at her request, but as a whistleblower fired for standing up to discrimination. The internet erupted. By noon, #Pinnacle Scandal was trending on X. Users shared screenshots of the article, former Pinnacle employees posted their own stories of mistreatment, and customers vowed to boycott. "I worked there for 3 years," one post read. "Tasha's not the only one they screwed over." Another, "Brad Walker's a racist and a crook. #Justice for Tasha." Pinnacle's stock plummeted 35% by the end of the day. Major clients, including a Fortune 500 company, pulled their contracts, citing ethical concerns. Protesters gathered outside Pinnacle's headquarters, holding signs that read, "Justice for Tasha," and "End Corporate Greed." News channels picked up the story, with pundits debating corporate accountability and workplace discrimination. Brad fought back. He issued a press release calling the allegations baseless and hired a crisis PR firm to spin the narrative. At a press conference, he stood at a podium, his face tight with forced confidence. "Pinnacle is a victim of a smear campaign," he said. "We're cooperating fully with any investigations." A reporter in the back shouted, "Mr. Walker, did you fire Tasha Williams because of her race?" Brad's face reddened, his jaw clenching. He muttered something about "no comment" and stormed off, the cameras capturing every moment of his unraveling. Tasha watched it all from her apartment, Marcus curled up beside her on the couch. The TV showed footage of the protests, of Brad's disastrous press conference, of analysts predicting Pinnacle's collapse. Marcus looked up at her, his eyes wide. "Mom, did you do this?" She smiled, ruffling his hair. "I just told the truth, baby." The fallout was relentless. The Department of Justice launched an investigation into Pinnacle's practices, and the IRS announced a full audit. Former employees filed a class action lawsuit, alleging systemic discrimination and wage theft. Pinnacle paid $12 million in fines for tax evasion, and its reputation was shredded. Brad was forced to resign, replaced by an interim CEO tasked with salvaging what was left of the company. Tasha became a symbol of resistance. Her story resonated with millions: single mothers, workers of color, anyone who'd ever felt crushed by a system designed to keep them down. She was invited to speak on news shows, her face pixelated to protect her identity at first, but soon she stepped into the light. At a conference on workplace justice, she took the stage, her voice steady and powerful. "I used to think I had to stay quiet to survive," she said, looking out at a sea of faces, workers, activists, single parents like her. "But silence doesn't protect us. It protects them. I stood up because I was tired of being invisible. And if I can do it, so can you." The crowd erupted in applause, and Marcus, sitting in the front row, grinned so wide it hurt Tasha's heart in the best way. She used the spotlight to launch Rise Up, a non-profit dedicated to helping single mothers access legal aid, financial planning, and career training. At its first fundraiser, Tasha stood at a podium, her hands steady, her voice clear. "We're not just fighting for ourselves," she said. "We're fighting for our kids, for our communities, for everyone who's been told they don't matter. We're stronger than they think." A year later, Tasha walked Marcus to school, his backpack bouncing as he chattered about his new science project, a model rocket this time. Her phone buzzed with an email from Elena, another company exposed. "You started something big, Tasha." She smiled, slipping the phone into her pocket. Rise Up was growing, with chapters in 3 cities and a waiting list of women seeking help. Tasha was no longer just a single mom scraping by. She was a force, a voice, a beacon for those who'd been silenced. She looked at Marcus, his eyes bright with dreams she'd make sure came true. The world wasn't perfect, but she'd carved out a piece of it for them. And she was just getting started.